This is not prepared for you, but actually what happened in my kitchen today. So this is salad we're getting ready to eat for dinner. Always have a ton of fruit all the time. And soup. Most nights we're pretty simple eaters. We just have salad and soup. This is just a vegetable soup you see going on here.
You can smell it.
Oh man, if only had smell-o-vision, but it's gonna be super good. That's it. We're super easy when it comes to the kitchen. Smoothies, salads, soups. Hello, my name is Dr. Brooke Goldner, and I'm a physician, a disease reversal specialist, and the author of Goodbye Lupus and Goodbye Autoimmune Disease. I went vegan end of 2004, beginning of 2005, and I really did it as a diet to lose weight for my wedding. I'd already been vegetarian since I was 13 years old. I became vegetarian after my dad read John Robbins' book, Diet for a New America. And he read about the atrocities of factory farming. Then he gave the book to my mother and to myself, and we decided as a family to become vegetarian, which back in the 80s was very drastic. We didn't know any other people that were vegetarian, let alone vegan. And that's how I lived, and I thought it was an ethical way to live, but it wasn't a very healthy way. I basically just replaced everything that was meat with cheese and ate lots and lots of eggs. So I usually ate eggs and cheese most meals, if it wasn't, just pasta or something like that, but that still had cheese on it as well. By the time I met my husband, I was actually on the best diet if you want to be overweight and unhealthy, which is hospital food. And I wanted to lose weight for our wedding, and that wasn't going to work very well. Now, my husband is actually a specialist in metabolism, and his passion has always been that there should be the ideal diet for humans. So when he was getting his master's degree in nutrition and exercise science, he would ask his professors who are PhDs, what's the best diet for fat loss and muscle building that will work for every person? And they would, high carb, low carb, high fat, low fat. And you go, this isn't science. You could tell me the perfect diet for a giraffe, the perfect diet for a rabbit, the perfect diet for a gorilla and for a lion. And when it comes to humans, So he was really frustrated by that, and he was obsessed with understanding cellular biology, metabolism, and the impact of food on metabolism. Now, that was the reason I changed my diet, was to lose weight for the wedding, and he had a diet that could help me do that. Now, his diet did include meat at the time. At the time, he still hadn't discovered that you could lose fat faster, build muscle faster without meat than with it. But at the time, he still included it, which I wouldn't eat. So he made a deal with me. You want to lose weight, you got to stop all the saturated fat, which means all the dairy, the eggs, and I ended up accidentally being plant-based, in fact, high raw plant-based. Now, the other part of the story was that weight wasn't my only issue. I actually was someone who was sick since childhood. So I had migraines starting at about 13 years old, and then I developed a disease called lupus when I was 16 years old. And that came with arthritis, it came with rashes, and more migraines where I'd vomit for a week at a time, and kidney failure. And so from the age of 16, I was on heavy doses of medications, whether it was chemotherapy to save my kidneys, high doses of steroids. By my 20s, I was already having blood clots, mini strokes, so I had to be on blood thinners. So I was also very sick, chronically ill from 16 years old. And my husband wanted to marry me anyway. He said, I'd rather live a short life with you than a lifetime with anyone else. So even though he knew I was going to become disabled, he knew I couldn't have children because of my disease, he just wanted to be with me. So I said, yeah, sure. I wasn't going to turn away love. So I wanted to get married, but I also wanted to look amazing. And we wanted to elope to Hawaii, where suddenly that long white coat would not be covering up what I'd been packing on. And that's why I changed my diet. So I suddenly became a high raw vegan by accident. And within 3 months, I did lose the weight. I went from a size 11 to a size 3, totally ripped for my wedding. And for the first time since 16, I had no migraines. I had no joint pain. I had amazing energy, even though I was working as an intern, working 30-hour shifts. And when I got my labs drawn 3 months after changing my diet, they were negative for lupus. And actually, at the time we're filming this right now, next week is the 17-year anniversary of becoming lupus-free. 17 years. So as of next week will be 17 years from my wedding day, where right before we got married, I had my labs drawn. And I've had 2 healthy pregnancies, beautiful sons. One just had his bar mitzvah this weekend. He's 13. My younger son is 9. They have been completely plant-based since birth, and they are so healthy and smart and just thriving. So yeah, I changed the diet to look great for my wedding, and it completely changed not only my weight, but my health, the trajectory of my life. And it totally changed the course of what I decided to do with my life. So going from a doctor that was planning to just use medicines and procedures to someone who actually gets to heal people. At this point, I've helped thousands of people all over the world eliminate lupus, scleroderma, Sjogren's, MS, and a multitude of other diseases in very short periods of time using the protocol that we developed based off of my recovery. So it's been an amazing experience, and one that I'm really, really proud of.
Is your husband also doing this?
Yes, so when I first became 100% vegan, plant-based, my husband had no plan to. Now, I'd already been someone who loved animals, and once I realized not only did this diet make me so healthy, but I also learned more about the impact of things like dairy and eggs on animals and other things. So for me, I was locked in. I was happy, I was healthy, I was gonna do this forever. It was working for my patients. It was something that I would never go back to. For my husband, it was harder because he's never been sick a day in his life. And he was doing really well. He was eating also high raw and no processed foods, anything like that, no dairy products, but he did eat free range meat. So this was before paleo was cool. That's what he was teaching back then. And he didn't really see much reason to change. But as I started to understand more, because at first we didn't know why I was well. We just knew I was, and we were excited. But even as a physician, or maybe especially as a physician, I never considered that I didn't have lupus anymore, because I had an incurable disease that I have had for, at the time, 12 years of my life. I was now a doctor who knew that it was a genetic incurable disease. So even facing the fact that I had no symptoms, even facing the fact that I had normal labs, I still thought of myself as someone who had lupus. It was only after my son was born, my first son, and I had no relapse, I had no signs of disease, and it never came back, which the doctor said it definitely will. That's when we realized, wait a minute, something's going on here, where I don't think I have lupus anymore. And my husband's theory was proven correct as well, because I gained 40 pounds with my pregnancy, and then I gave birth. I did not work out after giving birth. I was just nursing and taking care of my baby. And 9 days after giving birth, it was my birthday, and my husband just wanted to take me out a little bit. I put on my pre-pregnancy jeans and they fit. And so he did a full photo shoot. I have it. And he said, wait a minute, my theory of metabolism is correct. So, because he at the time had the largest boot camps in Orange County, California. And a lot of the women he was training were trying to lose their pregnancy weight, but their kids were in college, like they were not losing their weight. And here I was, no longer having any lupus issues, and my body just bounced right back with no problem. And he goes, I think we really have something. So we started to look at, well, maybe there's a connection between metabolism and health. Maybe it's not just the speed at which you burn fat or the speed at which you can build muscle, but maybe there's more to it. Maybe it's your body's ability to actually do what it needs to do in real time, repair damage and optimize function. And if that's the case, it would make sense that metabolism is linked not only to your weight or how much muscle you have, but really your overall health at any given time. And that's why I could become pregnant, I could have a healthy baby, healthy delivery, made enough milk to feed my baby and donate to other families, and at the same time, boom, lose the baby weight like no problem. So that really started to open our eyes that maybe there was something deeper. And that's when we started to study, how does nutrition affect cellular repair, cellular function, and the immune system? So I didn't come to this from reading other things or learn. I didn't even know there was plant-based medicine or plant-based doctors. I'd never heard of it. We're two scientists who just decided to sit down and understand what happened. Because for us, we found it was a moral imperative that if we were going to teach somebody what we did, that we had to truly know that it wasn't just a miracle, that it wasn't in spite of something, but because of each component. That I couldn't bring it to the public unless we could prove it. Because as a former patient and as a physician, I just didn't think it was right. And there's so many people out there promoting things where I got better, do what I did. And it's not because of everything they did. It's because of some of it. And it's in spite of some of it. Some of it they got lucky, right? And we wanted to have something reproducible. So we started to really study it. And then we started to understand too, wait a minute, even though you've got a 20-pack abs and have never had health problems, all the men in your family have had heart disease, cancer, all sorts of different kinds of health problems that you can get even with big muscles and looking fit. Right? That they're not just problems with obesity, but that it's impacting your heart, it's impacting whether or not you have cancer. And so he decided to make a change. It was kind of funny because he was a bit resistant at first because he didn't want to become a skinny vegan. He at the time was already famous for fitness, and he was a big muscular guy. And I would show him other vegan athletes and he'd go, I don't know, he looks kind of small. Or he'd go, I don't know, he looks like he was already big before he went vegan, so maybe he kept it. And he goes, I need to be able to prove it. Again, he won't just teach something he can't prove. So he decided to do an experiment where I at first had to tell him, I said, listen, if anyone can break the code and learn how to build muscle as a vegan, you can do it. And he's like, well, of course I can, so that helped, a little challenge, and so he decided to try it. And at first he struggled because he substituted meat with fake meat, and that didn't work. He actually became more inflamed because his diet was cleaner before than it was with all the processed vegan meats and stuff. That didn't work. And so he said, you know what, I'll do what I always did. I'll go back to the drawing board and I'll make it. And so he lost all of his muscle to make sure that it was proven that it was purely because of his diet and not anything that he retained. And he's done this multiple times. Thankfully, he's done with this experiment to intentionally lose muscle, get out of shape, and then do it 100% plant-based. And what he's found is he can build more muscle with half the protein that he needed as a meat eater, as a plant-based eater, and that he recovers so quickly he can work out every single day, whereas before he could only work out the same muscle group maybe twice a week because of the recovery time. But because what he's eating is so anti-inflammatory now, it's actually faster and easier to get stronger, to get fitter, to even put on muscle, even doing it 100% plant-based. So he has been plant-based now. I think he's been 100% vegan now for, I think it'll be 12 years this year. Yeah, and you saw him when he came in. I mean, he's a big dude. Yeah, I mean, he's 200 pounds, he's muscle, and his tofu is his only plant protein, but really it's mostly smoothies and salads. We all eat the same way. He just eats way more. He eats like 4 times what I eat.
Is that a problem, having to eat that much?
No. Well, we like eating and we like our food, but no, it's just, and that's the natural thing when people ask me about that. Well, what about for bigger people? So they eat more. I have 2 kids. My 13-year-old's built like me, tall, skinny, and my 9-year-old is built like my husband. Like he just came out like this, he's just like, and my younger son, who's 4 years younger, has always eaten more than his big brother, even though he's younger, but he's just bigger and he's built for muscle. So yeah, people just naturally tend to eat what their body needs, I find, when they're healthy and they're plant-based. If you're eating the standard American diet, you don't eat what you need, you eat what you're addicted to. And that's a whole nother problem.
Raising your children this way, they're exclusively plant-based?
Their whole lives.
Wow, that's fantastic.
From conception, yeah, they are.
How's their health overall?
My kids have phenomenal health. It's actually kind of interesting because as a physician, I had to go through training in pediatrics and seeing what normal was. And my kids are abnormal. Their cholesterol is low. Their blood pressure is low. Normally, by the age of 7, we can see on MRI the blockages forming in children's arteries that are going to lead to their first heart attack when they're in their 50s or 60s, right? We can see it at 7. And that's one of the reasons why also blood pressure tends to come up at that age. It's not because it's normal for blood pressure to come up based on age. It's the blockages are happening, arteries are stiffening, heart's working harder. So my children have the same blood pressure they had at like 5 or 6 when they're 9 or 10. And I have a funny story about that, actually. I went in once to see the doctor with my kids I take them in for their checkups. And the doctor knows us. In fact, pediatrician always says my kids inspire her to work out more and eat better because they're just vibrant and healthy. And the nurse comes in before the doctor to take the blood pressure. Now, my son, so this was Solomon, I think he was like 10 or 11. He's sitting on the little table and he's chatting. He's like me. So he's animated, he's chatting, he's talking about life, he's doing his thing, and she's taking his blood pressure. Now the nurse doesn't look well to me. She's obese, looks unwell. She's taking the blood pressure of this child who is healthy and bubbly, and I see her face falls. And then she does it again. Looks a little nervous, takes the cuff off, says, "Excuse me," leaves, comes back, closes the door, and then leaves again. And I went, oh boy. She's seeing he has low blood pressure. She's nervous. So the pediatrician comes in laughing. I said, "Did your nurse run out of here because she's worried about my son's blood pressure?" And she goes, "Yeah, she's never seen a kid with healthy blood pressure before. What she's used to are numbers that are higher. And she didn't even know that lower is healthier. It's actually better to have lower blood pressure. It means your heart's not working as hard." And she was startled by my son. I mean, obviously he was fine. He was animated talking. He wasn't like, but she was so scared because she'd never seen that before. And, the pediatrician's just chuckling. She goes, she's never seen anybody this healthy before at that age, because the typical kid is already overweight, already getting his blood pressure going up. We have rampant diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol in children now, which didn't exist 20 years ago when I was in training. We didn't see that in children, and now we do. I mean, it's getting worse and worse. So yeah, they are extremely healthy. They don't get colds and flus. Nobody in our house has gotten COVID that we're aware of. They are just extraordinarily healthy. Both of my kids last had a cold when they were 2. They just stopped getting colds, even when they were in public school, because their immune systems are remarkable. And then there's other things. I was on Fox News a couple years ago, and they had a keto doctor talking to me. He told me that I was giving my kids brain damage with my diet. It was just a remarkable thing to hear, that somehow even a physician saying you shouldn't eat fruits and vegetables. Even my grandmother knew better, and she had a 4th grade education, right? But my children are both, they're both brilliant. They've been tested as gifted. My son Solomon already wrote his first book last year. They're just extraordinarily gifted children, and obviously if we did harm them with their plant-based diet, I guess they would have been higher level genius. But they're really gifted, and not only that, not only intelligent, but compassionate and empathic. And my son's book that he wrote is to help vegan kids with bullies. It's called 50 Comebacks for Vegan Kids, and it's to help vegan kids deal with bullies and stand up for themselves and teach in an empathic, loving way. And I think it's also one of the gifts of raising them this way, is I don't have to lie to them about their food or anything else. I tell them the truth about everything. We don't even have the tooth fairy, because I have told them I will always be 100% honest about everything, and they can always trust. But, what's that for? Well, that's cow milk. Why is it here? Shouldn't it be for baby cows? Yes. We just always had open conversation. And so they're very committed and compassionate kids, and they teach their teachers, they teach other kids, and they've really embraced what their life is about. So I'm just really lucky just to have them at all. But to be able to raise kids like this, it's an amazing gift.
Now, it seems like this is the most protective way to raise your children. Would you concur?
Absolutely. For me, I would rather go through another dozen years of lupus than have them be sick a day like I was. So there was just never a question that I was going to raise them this way, that if it took eating this way to get healthy, and thank goodness it worked for me and it's worked for so many people, the best thing we could ever do is not get them sick to begin with. And what I've seen, I'm very results based, so whatever I teach is what I have proven with results. I don't teach theories at all. But what I've seen is, even in young kids now, I have kids as young as 2 years old that have come to me with lupus and kidney failure. I was told I was young when I got sick, and that was 30 years ago. And now we're seeing children, young children, with severe lupus, kidney failure. And then when I talk to their parents, they go, but he won't eat anything but hot dogs and mac and cheese. He won't? Who's giving him this? You gotta stop. So the diets have gotten worse, and the kids have gotten sicker with all diseases, whether it's mental health, physical health, in all areas, we're seeing sicker kids in every way. And the kids that are growing up this way, they're not having those health problems. Mine, who have the genetics, they have the genetics for autoimmune disease, and also all the other high blood pressure and diabetes and heart disease and cancer. And every family has that, right? We all have our genetics that some of us need a little bit more chlorine in our gene pool, right? We got lots of things going on, but we do have power over what we eat. We can't change the gene pool, but we can change what we feed our kids, and we can change the trajectory of their lives and the generations that come after them as well.
Is there any other way that might be equivocally as protective?
Not that I've seen. Not that I've seen. I think this is the most powerful thing we can do. And it really is across the board. I love to tell the story of this one family where I helped the whole family get healthy. And it started with the mom who had lupus and Sjogren's, came to me 4 weeks before giving birth. And whenever she'd gotten pregnant before, she got terribly ill, ICU, just very sick. So I put her on what I call rapid recovery, 4 weeks of intensive diet with daily contact with me to get better as quickly as possible. 4 weeks later, right before giving birth, she was flying a kite, running around, teaching her kid how to fly a kite, her older kid, where she was in bed when I met her. And she had a healthy delivery. Never had a relapse. We're going on over 5 years now. She's never had a relapse, never needed medicines again, got off all her medicines, just had a COVID baby. During COVID, baby didn't have COVID, but during COVID, got pregnant, had a baby, never relapsed. fully healthy still to this day. Now, right after she got healthy, which was a miracle for her husband to witness because he was so stressed he could lose her. And then his mother, he gets a call, his mother had a fatal heart attack and she's in the hospital in Israel. And she hadn't died yet, but they were saying it was fatal and that she's never leaving the hospital, come say goodbye. Now, she'd had multiple heart attacks, she had diabetes, she'd had heart failure for years already. She'd had stents and bypass surgeries and the doctor said she's too weak to survive. So he flew to Israel with the Vitamix blender because I teach people you can nourish yourself with green smoothies. It's easy. Put a straw, drink, you don't have to worry. You just do it that way. So he'd seen this miracle in his wife and he goes, I don't know if this will work, but I'm taking the blender. I'm going to Israel. He went to Israel. He brought the blender into the ICU. I don't know how he did it. Like they didn't stop him. And he gave her nothing but green smoothies. And in 5 days, she walked out of the hospital. And she's never gone back. She hasn't had chest pain again. She fully healed. She reversed the diabetes. She still needs some insulin, but she's been diabetic for so long. But now she actually has normal blood sugar on insulin, where she didn't before. All of the problems went away. She lost a ton of weight and got healthy. So the doctors were saying, say goodbye, 5 days of getting greens and omega-3s and water intake, and she walks out of the hospital and she survives. Then after this happens, same family, it's another year or a year or two later, I get a call that the husband is now sick with diabetes. I said, wait a minute, you're not eating what your wife's making because she's still free of lupus. How do you have diabetes? He goes, well, I'm eating out at lunch. So he was stressed. And I said, listen, I think first of all, you need to just cry this out. Your wife is okay and your mom's okay. And he just started crying when I said that just he'd been carrying all the stress, and stress is a major trigger for illness. And I work with people on that as well, that your moods affect expression of your genes for disease too. So cried it out. Now they need you. So now you have to do this. And within 5 weeks, diabetes was gone, inflammatory liver disease gone, lost a ton of weight, looked amazing. And I love telling the story because what's really awesome about this is, number one, there is one best diet for humans, and it's not different for people with diabetes or high blood pressure or lupus. There's a best way to eat for cellular repair and cellular recovery, and if you eat that way, you can optimize your health, right? So that's good news. The other really important point is they have 3 kids now, and those kids have the genes for diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attacks, heart failure, lupus, Sjogren's, and more. But these kids are on a 100% plant-based diet. They drink their smoothies every day. They eat fresh fruits and vegetables and greens and all those different things. And they are going to have a different life. They won't have to face those same battles with food addiction, with illness, all of the fear and drama that comes with it. They get to grow up with their grandparents who are still alive and healthy because of this, but they won't have to suffer in the same way. And so it's just a beautiful thing that when you do this for yourself, it creates this domino effect for the people who know you and for the people who come after you.
There's a new fad, the carnivore diet, and this is the extreme polarized opposite. Do you ever see anybody that's living this way?
Yeah, well, I see them as patients and clients. Humans are not carnivores. It's just a fact. And I know that we find meat very addictive, and if it's seasoned well, you like the taste. I don't think anyone gives up meat because they don't like the taste, really. Most of the time, they just realize it's bad for them. But it is an extremely harmful diet. And so I see people who have gone either, they call it keto or carnivore or whatever it is, and they end up in kidney failure. They end up with severe diabetes. They'll think they're not diabetic. I did a whole big video about this for social media to try to explain this to people after seeing a woman who was convinced that, I was seeing her husband, but the wife was on keto for her diabetes, and she was convinced it was better because her blood marker, HbA1c, was lower. And I had to explain to her the science of how diabetes works, and that she's actually more diabetic than ever before. And I said, if you eat a banana, what happens? She goes, oh, my blood sugar shoots up. I said, exactly. Your HbA1c is your average blood sugar over 3 months. So if you're not eating anything, fruit, nothing, and you're eating high levels of saturated fat, meat, all that stuff, you are becoming extremely, extremely insulin resistant. You're just not testing it. So if you're only eating meats, your HbA1c will be low, not because you're not diabetic, but because you haven't spiked your blood sugar at all. But the moment you eat a banana or something else that's healthy, it'll shoot through the roof because now you've made yourself even more diabetic. And so the people that have come to me, that's what happened is, yes, as long as they ate that way, their blood sugar was low, but if they eat an apple, anything, extremely high spikes. So it made them more diabetic. They also didn't feel well. So some of them will feel better at first, but long-term they don't. And then on top of that, it's very strenuous on the kidneys. So for people who are diabetic, they're becoming more diabetic. They're not aware of it. They do lose weight. And as that doctor on Fox News, he was trying to tell me that I'm hurting my clients because they could be losing so much more weight because we're obviously struggling with weight problems as plant-based eaters. But said to him, there's a lot of ways to lose weight while also getting higher risks of heart disease and cancer. You can do smoking. Smoking's very effective for that. That you can't just go by how thin you are, but what's actually happening internally. And I said, you are killing them. You are giving them higher rates of heart disease, cancer, autoimmune disease, kidney failure. And yeah, they look good for a bit, but they actually don't. I've found when people eat a lot of plants, they tend to have that nice beta carotene glow. You can see health through their skin. That even if they are thinner, I have pretty low body fat, there's a fullness to the face. They're not kind of sucked in and, you know, with big circles under their eyes and everything. But people who eat the carnivore way, the keto way, to me, the sallowness of their skin, they don't look healthy, and they aren't. So it's very difficult, and I think it's hard for doctors, and it's hard for people who aren't trained this way because nobody's trained in nutrition and how it impacts health. I spent a lot of time studying this, but it wasn't taught to me in medical school. I used my medical training to become an expert at this. I was a genetic researcher at Carnegie Mellon, and then I became a doctor. And so I have a scientific mind, and I understand cellular pathways and all of these different systems. So when I wanted to understand the nutrition and how it impacted my health, I could look at that and understand it. But I had to pursue it. And it's not taught to us as doctors. So for a doctor who's not going to take the time to understand that, if he goes, patients are losing weight, HbA1c looks good, we're doing a good job, it's just that he's not going deep enough and he's causing harm, and that's supposed to be the first thing we say we're not going to do is cause harm. But it's very complicated for people, and trying to understand it, you could find experts with the same degree who look like they should know what they're talking about, and they're saying the opposite of what I'm saying or what another doctor's saying. So what I always tell them is, one, look at long term. Use some common sense. I mean, truly, really. I mean, when you pass a carcass on the road, do you get hungry or do you get nauseous? All right. When you see a beautiful orange tree, do you get hungry? I mean, can you imagine in nature that before we built homes for ourselves, that we had to consult something to learn, am I a carnivore or an herbivore? I don't know, right? No other species needs to do that. We've destroyed our ability to really trust our bodies and our tastes because of what we've done to the food system. But it is difficult. And there's also no money behind what plant-based folks are doing. You know, I always say I'm not paid by big kale or big broccoli. Nobody's endorsed me yet. You know, that this is just, I'm speaking as a survivor and as a former patient and as a doctor trying to help people. It's also when my husband and I agreed that we would release our entire protocol for free to the public, which we did, because we believe this should be a human right, that people should know what's good for their health. But there's a lot of money behind the industries that keep people addicted to the wrong things. So, and on the internet, you can make everything seem balanced when it's not. So it's very difficult, and that's why I don't judge people who are confused and trying to figure out their path. I just try to be a guiding light for people who are ready to hear it. Now, how can somebody make sense of the evidence? I like to look at the totality of evidence, but I don't know that people necessarily have the capability, you know, due to time restraints or the fact that they're being misled by influencers that have that title, MD or whatever. How can you showcase or delineate the totality of evidence in your own words? I think it's really difficult for people to do that. I really do. I mean, how can you know? You go on and someone seems like they've got some nice charisma. And, you know, and you try to figure it out. And for many people, by the time they find me, most of what I hear is, I've tried everything. And I say, great, you're perfect for me. You know, that's just kind of what it is. Whenever someone says, I've tried everything and nothing works, good, let's do this. And it works. And that's why whenever people say, well, how many people get better when they do what you say? Everyone who does what I say is going to experience improvement in their health. Because I'm not talking about it's not a medicine. I'm talking about cellular nutrition, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, these different phytonutrients. When you give them to your body, you get healthier. That's just how it works, right? That's also why when you look at different diets, like a paleo diet, okay, some people get better when they eat a paleo diet. But it's because they went from a diet that was full of processed foods and dairy and saturated fats, and then they moved to a diet that had a lot of vegetables and some meats that were cleaner or less fattening. So they made a huge change in their diet and they experienced improvement, right? Now, some people get worse. And I've had people tell me I was already plant-based, and then my doctor or naturopath or guru, whoever, said that I needed protein or I needed animal products, and they add meat in on a paleo diet and they get sicker. And then there's some people who they try to go paleo, but they lean more into the meat and less into the vegetables. And I've had people come to me who tried paleo for autoimmune and ended up in kidney failure or worsened kidney failure on dialysis because they were led astray. So to me, I think that when you have a diet where some people get better and some people get worse, that's a red flag, right? Because if you're doing the plant-based diet wrong, you might not get fully better, but you're not going to shut down your kidneys. You're not going to get worse. You know, that if you're not doing enough fresh vegetables or something like that, I can take you to the next step. And there's people who come to me that way. They're already vegan or they're already plant-based, but they're still having some illness problems. And then I just show them how to nourish themselves a bit better, and boom, they're there. They get there, right? But yeah, I think that's part of it. People tell me that the reason that they follow what I'm telling them is also because they know that I come from a place of having been there. So a lot of experts and influencers is the name now, they just read some stuff and they're teaching you what they read, and I read this, I looked at this, and they're kind of speaking from that, which that doesn't mean they're any less confused than the standard person who's trying to be online, right? They're just maybe have more charisma than them. But having had the experience where I've been sick and I did get my health back and sustained it through pregnancies, through the rest of my residency, through all of this time, like I said, 17 years being disease-free, that I've walked the walk for a long time. And I hold people's hand to help them get there too. I work with people every day. I have programs where I literally check on them every day, because my goal is you work with me and you never need me again. I'm not selling them anything. I'm not like, here, you can only get better if you buy all these supplements for the rest of your life, or, there's nothing like that. I put the protocol out there for free. And that's the other thing I think that's earned trust. The whole protocol's out there for free. No like holding back the last piece until you pay this amount. And thousands of people all over the world have tagged me online and emailed me saying all they did was use my free content and heal. And they post that. I don't know them, right? So I think that that's also helped, where there's so many testimonies from people who've never met me, never worked with me, but used free content to heal. So if they do work with me, it's just because they need more help with getting over their food addictions, because a lot of people do, or they need it personalized, like they're in kidney failure, or they're in heart failure or lung failure, and there's no time to practice and try to get it right, or they need it specialized. People with kidney failure, they have limitations on their water, potassium, and so I know how to do that. But in order to get the information, it's just there. Right? You don't have to buy my book. I teach it for free. And so I think that that's something that can earn trust as well, where a lot of the folks out there, all they're trying to get you to do is just buy their course or buy their supplements. And whereas I'm just like, here, take this information and use it and heal, and let me know how you do. And then if you need me, then we've already started somewhere good. Like I just started today with someone who's doing my 4-week rapid recovery. So she's been working with me every day for 4 weeks. But before we started, off my free information, she's already dropped her inflammation markers dramatically. She's so excited. She's like, without even meeting you yet, look what I did. I've already started. So maybe she didn't even need me, but she wants to work with me. Fine, I'm here, I'll do it. But I think that also, if you can just take free information and try it on your own, there's nothing to lose. And I think that builds trust for people too.
There's a doctor, he's been carnivore for a year or two, and he checks his kidneys, and those 3 tests, you check your kidneys with the bun and the GRF and all that. It's all good. Mm-hmm. Is it just a matter of time? What's going on there?
I don't know, because I don't know him. I mean, you're giving me a little, kidneys that are healthy can tolerate. They can tolerate you having a poor diet, but once they become impaired, they'll fail quickly. I mean, and that's not even fringe science for weird doctors like me, but mainstream nephrology. They've done the research and they found it's one of the only specialties where they've done nutrition research and they still teach it wrong. So the research showed that when someone's in kidney failure, so stage 2, 3, 4, where their kidneys are going, that if they eat any animal products, meat, dairy, eggs, their kidneys fail faster. So the GFR, the filtration rate tanks quickly, creatinine spikes quickly, which are bad signs. And so at the end of that research, they decided, let's test it again to see if is it protein or is it something else. They retested it using soy, edamame, soybeans, tofu. No change. Did not negatively impact the GFR or creatinine at all. So obviously the answer is that animal products cause kidneys to fail faster. But what doctors actually have been told to say is eat a low protein diet. Which, what does that mean? Because protein's not a food. People don't even know what to do with that. And if you go to the hospital and you have kidney problems, they'll still give you an egg or something with your meal. What is low protein? So the research is clear. Animal products make kidneys fail faster, especially when they're damaged. But doctors are just told to say eat low protein. Why?
Well, that's
right?
one thing he says is the protein is not causing kidney damage.
Well, he's wrong, especially, so here's the
He
other
cites
thing.
3 papers, but I don't.
Oh, three papers. And how many did he have to read to find those 3? I don't know. I mean, I'm booked all day in, day out. My rapid recovery group, 60 people at a time. Like, I have evidence that I don't have time to write up because it's boom, the next group, boom, the next group. Although you do know that they're doing well because you're not safe on the internet. If you're harming people, it's going to come out, right? People are grateful and people are doing well. But there's certain things that we've taken as normal that are not. So for example, with GFR, you brought up GFR, that's the glomerular filtration rate. And that tells you how well your kidneys are functioning. So you kind of think of it like if you're 100%, you're good, right? So the GFR of a healthy, normal person, especially when they're young, is usually in the hundreds, 100 to 115, something like that is typically what you see. Now, I was taught in my medical training that GFR goes down with age. And it's true, in the standard world where nobody's doing plant-based or anything like that, GFR goes down with age. So normally by the time you're in your 60s or so, GFR can be down in the 60s to low 70s, right? And then it's expected to decrease over time. Now, once you get below 60, it's actually considered early kidney failure. But again, that's normal with age, right? And so what the doctor often won't tell you that you have a problem until you get below 60 and then, oh, do you know you have kidney problems? I didn't have kidney problems last checkup. Of course you did, right? Now, the reason I'm telling you this is I have seen people, my oldest client right now is 100. So I had this guy who wanted to do rapid recovery with me and I'm looking at his paperwork, and he's 100. I said, this, because I'm doing the birthday. No. So I call him because I tried to text and it's a landline. Of course it is. And he signed up for my online group, right? I went, all right. So I call him up. I said, are you 100 years old? He said, yes. I said, do you have a computer or an iPhone or anything that you can work with me online? No, but I'll learn it. I said, let's just do this on the phone. Let me help you. First of all, why are you seeing me at 100? And he said, well, I just got told I have autoimmune markers. I said, well, okay. He goes, well, I don't want to die of autoimmune disease. So he went on my pure hypernourishment protocol, raw protocol. Within a short period of time, he was jogging every day. I don't think he jogs quickly, but he's jogging and doing squats and all this at 100 years old. And he's just eating big salads and smoothies and he loves it and he's doing that. But that's an aside. So I've seen people from baby up to 100 now. And a lot of people who see me, they're seeing me for autoimmune because that's what I'm known for. And oftentimes, even though they're seeing me for lupus or Sjogren's arthritis, I look at their labs and I go, do you know your kidneys are at 65%? And they, no one's ever told me. I said, okay, just watch. And usually after 1 month of doing hypernourishment with me, kidney function is up to normal. Even in their 60s, 70s, 80s, kidney function goes right back to normal. So what that tells me is that kidneys don't fail over time as a result of age. They fail over time as a result of our diet, because that's all I changed, right? And specifically malnourishment of the right nutrients and eating the wrong ones, because the moment you change it, no matter how old you are, those kidneys go right back to normal again. Now, I've published getting people off the kidney transplant list with kidney failure, but these are people who had normal range over 60, but still 40% lower than they were when they were younger, and it goes right back to normal. So people can say it's normal range. I don't really care about that. What I want to see is it optimal, because our organs can replenish, and aging is really, to me, a function of how well we're nourished, both emotionally and in terms of our diets over time. That has the biggest impact on how all of our organs function. I mean, I had kidney failure for 12 years on some level, and within 3 months of changing my diet, all my kidney markers went to normal and have been for the past 17 years. So at 40, I'm going to be 46 soon. And at 46, I have normal kidneys. At 16, I was in stage 4 kidney failure.
Do you believe people should supplement fatty acids?
So omega-3 fatty acids, I think that we don't necessarily need a supplement, but we do need to eat things with fatty acids. So, all right, this is the reason. All right, I'm going to give you the lowdown more than I go deeper in my book, all right? That if we were just eating the diet we had in nature, when we were free roaming humans in nature, right? So whether you are religious and believe that Adam and Eve, or whether you're a biologist who believes that we evolved, either ways we're out in the garden eating, right? So we're eating from nature, right? So before we cooked it, before anything else. If we were just eating plants in their raw form out in nature, we wouldn't have to worry about our omega-3, omega-6 balance. We wouldn't, because there's omega-3s in greens in low levels, right? There's omega-3s, omega-6s in nuts and seeds and things like that. You happen to find a walnut tree, good on you, get a rock, open it up, right? So all of those things are in nature and fairly balanced for us, right? And they found for health, in the studies that they've done for health, they found that most likely a balance of somewhere between 9-to-1 to 1-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3 gives optimal health. And they're not sure because we're humans doing research trying to figure it out, but that's the range. Now, I've seen people with a ratio of 200-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3 coming off the Western diet, right? So we're unbalanced, right? What has the highest omega-6 ratio compared to omega-3? Animal products. So again, if we need a low ratio for health, how is eating animal products going to get us there? It doesn't. So anyway, so if we were eating in nature, no problem. But because most people I see are so unbalanced, the highest levels of omega-6 come from oils and animal fats. So most people I'm seeing, that's what they're eating. They're eating chips with oils and animal fats and eggs and all that stuff every day, right? So, and they're not eating anything high in omega-3 to offset it. So their ratios, one study I looked at 20 years ago, they were looking at, it was like 40-to-1 was the average American, but like I said, I've seen 200-to-1. So how do we offset that? That's one of the ways that I help people hack their immune system, is to say, okay, you are way off balance, and so your immune system's not going to function properly because omega-6 fatty acids create our inflammatory immune system. Very important, that's what responds to infections and injuries, but when it's out of control, it can start attacking our own body, right? Like lupus, like what I had, right? It'll also make it so you can't heal well, right? Which we're seeing even with COVID. Now the omega-3 fatty acids lead to our anti-inflammatory immune system, which takes us back to baseline. So the way that I help people fix this problem, first stop eating all the heavy omega-6 foods. So the meat, the dairy, the oils, except for something like flax oil, which is mostly omega-3, that works. People get scared of oils in the plant-based world, but omega-3s coming from flax or chia, they do work. And then I supplement with high doses of flax and chia seeds or the cold press oil. And what we do is we just watch that ratio go back, and I don't have to measure it. People have done that, but it's not necessary. You can see the inflammation coming down really, really quickly. So it's just a fast track to getting that inflammation down. So I think in the natural world, when we were eating from nature, we wouldn't even have to think about this because we would just eat what we were attracted to, which would be plants, right? Not things that were bloody. We would just pick plants. But because of the way we eat now, we do have to think about those things. In my green smoothies I teach people to make, say, listen, most of the reason you're drinking that smoothie is to get in all of your vitamins and minerals and all that stuff. So cruciferous vegetables, shove kale in there. Spinach is pretty nutrient dense too, you can put that in there. Take a handful of flax or chia, throw that in there. The other problem is people are dehydrated, which makes them unable to heal properly. Use water, and then you put fruit in for flavor, blend it up and drink from it. You're gonna get those omega-3s, you're gonna get the vitamins and minerals, and you're going to have a much faster recovery and better health than you would without it. And so a lot of times, even people who are plant-based, that's what they're missing. They're eating their grains and their beans and their cooked foods, but they're not getting all the vitamins and minerals they need, and they're not getting the omega-3s, especially because the original stuff that came out in the plant-based world was just no fats at all. But having omega-3s works better. Mm-hmm. And so the results really show it, because I've had people who are on plant-based diets who couldn't get better. We get the omega-3s in there and the raw foods, and boom, I mean, very quickly they're back to normal.
So nobody has to worry about being a poor converter?
No, so the reason why that people used to think, or a lot of people still do think, that you can't convert things like ALA, flax, chia seeds to the active DHA and EPA is that the enzyme that breaks it down is the same enzyme your body uses to break down omega-6 fatty acids, and your body prefers that enzyme prefers the omega-6 pathway. So if you are eating a lot of animal products, animal fats, oils, you will be a poor converter. If you stop doing that, you will convert just fine. This is the thing about talking about theories, is you can get yourself into a tizzy trying to understand like who's right about theories. I don't teach theories, I teach results. I've been doing this with people for over a dozen years, and we super dose them in flax and chia, and all we've seen is the higher dose we get, the better the results, the faster the recovery. With algae, the only problem I see is that One, you're bypassing ALA, which has actually been shown to be important for brain health, so it's good to have it. But two, the algae supplements out there are pretty low dose, and they often dilute it with sunflower oil, which is super high in omega-6, which makes no sense. So people are taking a supplement trying to improve their omega-3s, but it's dissolved in omega-6, and it kind of undoes it. So if they could get a pure algae supplement that was maybe in something more neutral, then maybe that could work. Maybe they could even put it in flax oil. I don't know. But I haven't really seen yet a good algae supplement. It could be that would work for disease reversal because I need the dosage to be high. Again, if you are 40 to 1 to 200 to 1 like this, and we're trying to bring you down to here, a little drop or two of algae oil is not going to do it. We need to have something that's more aggressive, and it's a lot easier to titrate flax oil, flax or chia seeds because they're cheap, easy to buy, and you can easily get your dosage up. But we've had people on these high dosages for a long time. We've never had any negative side effect. It's only been faster and faster metabolisms and faster disease reversal. Cholesterol comes down faster. Everything goes better because omega-3 fatty acids are not just involved in your anti-inflammatory immune system, but they actually are really important for cellular metabolism because they make your cells better at receiving signals and performing their function. So we've only seen improvement in both fitness and disease reversal with high dose omega-3s from just flax and chia seeds.
One person is trying to achieve like dolphin level 14 omega-3 index, but some people say, oh, it needs to be above 5, maybe Japanese.
I think that's just it's not an important topic really, because what matters most, that's why I don't even measure for people. I already know they're inflamed. I don't need people to take a measurement. They're coming to me with arthritis and rashes and liver inflammation, all these things. We know they have inflammation. And so we just do the protocol and it works. So if the inflammation is coming down and you feel healthy and your labs are normal, who cares what the index is? It doesn't matter.
It's about being protective against neurodegenerative diseases later in life.
Yeah, and absolutely. And omega-3 integrates not only into cellular membranes in your body, but in your brain as well. It's really important. It's why we've had great results in reversing things like MS very, very quickly, is we use the high doses of omega-3s. But again, I don't think that we know yet the perfect number. What I'm saying is you have to go with the results because we're always wrong when we think we know those answers. That's why I shy away from doing that. Say, let's get the results. And if you are healthy, we know it. And you can see, even with results with things like Parkinson's, we actually just had our first person with ALS do our rapid recovery group, and she had reversal of symptoms. It was phenomenal. So if neurological diseases are getting better, right? And everyone tells me, I have brain fog, I thought I had early dementia, it went away, I can think clearly again. We have to trust the symptoms. I see so many people whose labs look terrible at first, and they don't feel symptomatic, right? And then but more people I see, they feel awful and their labs look normal. And what do? Do we say they're not sick? That's what their doctors usually say. They are. So those tests that we do, they're just not that reliable. I think we just really have to track how people's recovery and their health, and you'll know it.
Do you have any resources you want to share? Now, you did mention you have this free thing. How can people find that?
Yeah, I'm constantly sharing things online. So, and really, it's for people. I sometimes I think about, it'd be easier not to have to post all these things on social media and everything. And then I get messages or comments that say, you saved me today. I almost went off plan. So I try to make sure that I put those messages out there of hope and healing and information that people can use that's very practical. Definitely at Goodbye Lupus on any social media, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. If you go to goodbyelupus.com, there's a thing where it says free gifts where you can download a video tutorial of how I make the smoothies. And we have another website. I'm wearing my smoothie green today because we have a website my husband created called smoothieshred.com, and he created it as a public service. And it is an amazing resource. It is smoothie recipes, exercise videos, videos on how all of this works. And all of it's free. You don't even have to put your email address in. You can just use the website for your own health and recovery, and we won't even know you were there. We also do have a free Facebook group with people all over the world who are just sharing recipes and supporting each other, called Smoothie Shred, also on Facebook. But smoothieshred.com is a great resource, and goodbyelupus.com for people who want to have more tutorials from me or who want to work with me in some way. But if you're just trying to zoom in on all the free stuff, both of those websites and then social media, and I'm Goodbye Lupus everywhere.
Awesome. Now, in regard to smoothies, isn't it good to also chew up your food to get the nitric oxide going on in your mouth?
Not that I've seen. Okay. I think it's an interesting theory, but look at the woman I told you about who had heart failure in the hospital, and all she did was have smoothies, and she walked out in 5 days, and she just sucked down smoothies. So theoretically, and listen, everyone, when I first came out the gate, that was what people were saying. And they're like, it was this smoothie lady, right? And now here I am, and all of those people have backtracked it. And I won't name names, but I can tell you every one of the physicians I know who has publicly stated they were against it either have called me for recipes or have made websites or videos showing their favorite smoothie recipes. It's just, it was a theory that perhaps since we have these different, enzymes and all that kind of stuff, that maybe it's important. But no, if your blender digests it up a little bit for you and it goes down, it works. It works for disease reversal, for heart disease, for diabetes, for autoimmune disease. And again, the results matter more than the theories. So no, I have not seen it be a problem. Unless you prefer chewing. If you enjoy chewing, chew away. It's totally fine. And there's some folks that I see that have terrible TMJ. There's people I see with Sjogren's disease that don't have much saliva, and it's very difficult for them to chew, but they could suck down their smoothie and they heal. If it didn't work, it would be different. If it was like, they didn't get better until they chewed, okay, then I would stop doing this. But what I found is it makes life easy, because a lot of people, they don't like their vegetables that much. They don't want to eat the big salad that I want to eat, but they'll drink the smoothie and it works. And if it works, you got to keep doing it. Well, I can give you an example. So Michael Greger is a friend of mine. And when I first came out the scene, he was saying, I don't know about smoothies. It seems like you should chew. I said, they work, man. I'm telling you, they work. So I saw him at the same conference a year later. This is when I was still newer on the scene. Same conference a year later, and he goes, tell me about those smoothies. I said, why? He goes, I've been traveling all over the world, and everywhere I go, people tell me your smoothies saved their life. So now I'm curious. So tell me about it. And I told him about how much people are eating and all that, and he goes, very interesting. And shortly after, he made a video making his favorite green smoothie, right? That the results are the proof. We could talk all day about salivary enzymes and nitric oxide and this and that, and people can sound equally smart. But the results you can't argue with, and that's why I teach results.
Cool. So in a nutshell, I like to say, eat your beans, greens, grains, fruits, veggies, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices. Do you have anything like that? Any kind of acronyms or anything you like to share just to kind of make it simpler for people?
Really, it's the most important thing is your cruciferous vegetables, your flax or chia seeds for omega-3s, and water to get hydrated. Those are the most important nutrients that you can come by, or foods that you can come by when it comes to your overall health. I've seen people get healthy with and without grains, with and without beans, but I have not seen full disease reversal without eating those cruciferous vegetables, or at least something really high nutrient like spinach, right? And the omega-3 fatty acids and the water. Those have been the key ingredients that have helped people from many different diets get to the health that they wanted, that they couldn't get without it.
What would a day look like for somebody trying to eat this way? A smoothie, I guess, in the morning, a green one?
It depends on where your health is. So if you're someone who's already healthy, then adding what you're missing is a great way to go. So make a blender of green smoothie. We usually tell people, fill it about 3/4 of the way with your greens, handful of flax or chia, fruit for flavor, water, blend it up, and then have some for breakfast, and then maybe throughout the day, finish it off. Now you're nourished for the day. Good. You're going to be good to go. The people who come to me who are sick, we have to take more drastic action. So add what you're missing is a good starting point. Then we move into, all right, eliminate anything inflammatory, so animal products, processed foods. If someone is really, really ill, then I usually try to get them 75% or higher on raw hypernourishment. So, and most people maintain that way. I still eat that way because I love how I feel. And so I still eat raw till dinner most times, or I do smoothies most of the day. And then I have, and then if I do take a break to eat that's not smoothie, it might be Ezekiel bread with avocado or something. But most of the time I'm doing smoothies most of the day, and then dinner time's a big salad and a soup. I'm happy. So for a lot of folks, that way works really well for them, both for weight and for health. For people who are severely ill, I mentioned people with, organ failure or severe lupus or severe MS where they're really, really struggling. Then I put them on pure hypernourishment, which means until you are in remission, we do it the raw way. If you're eating, it's hypernourishment. Easiest way is smoothies, salads. It could be fancy raw meals. Like I like collard wraps, collard greens filled with vegetables, put guacamole. But really, we're eating for the fastest recovery possible. And then when they're in remission, then they add back some of the cooked plant foods, but don't add back the inflammatory foods for a while. I always tell people, if you're healthy, you should be able to eat an Impossible Burger and not get arthritis, right? But if you're sick eating that is like scratching open a scab. You got to heal. So once people are disease free for 6 months or more, I go, you know what, if you want to eat recreationally once or twice a week, you'll get away with it. And that's how you know you're healthy. So I know a lot of the other doctors are like, forever, never eat anything processed, never eat anything. Well, it's not very, I think it's really not common that people will do that. And it's also not necessary if you're healthy. So I told you I'm lupus free 17 years now, and I will eat like a vegan cupcake, or I will eat an Impossible burger. Now, after one, I don't want anymore. I just want a salad. But I'm not afraid I don't get lupus again. So, it's one of those things where once you're healthy, you don't have to be so strict. But to get there, I'm probably the strictest.
Nice. Now, what about fasting? Do you do any intermittent fasting? Do you recommend that at all?
No, it's actually hard to hypernourish and fast because I'm trying to overdose people. So hypernourishment is a protocol that we developed that it's an intentional overdose in the nutrients your body uses for healing. So if you're trying to overdose in nutrition, it's very hard to do that in a short period of time. So some people can, but it's not necessary.
Now, what about transitioning children from breast milk to what kind of foods do you recommend?
My kids went from breast milk, well, I breastfed till 2, and then, but we incorporated, they were raw their first year of life, so we did breast milk, then we did green smoothies, started about 4 months. We put them right in the bottle, and that was really fun in the supermarket because you have a clear bottle and it's green, and people go, what is that? And I go, it's milk, I think it's fine. And they think it's all moldy. But green smoothies started about 4 months, and then mashed avocado, mashed fruit, mashed vegetables. I would blend it up, maybe add some breast milk to it. So they were raw. Even their 1-year birthday cake was made of dates and walnuts and cacao. And then I added in more the grains and beans and things like that. Tofu was their finger foods. So yeah, I went right into that, but you don't need to replace milk. Milk is just there to help them while they're building their immune system. The reason I chose 2 was because that's when they found that the pores close that allow the mother's immune cells to get out into the baby. So once those are closed, now it's just for fun. So there's no reason to continue it. No other animal nurses forever. They nurse until they're onto their solid foods. So yeah, they went right into plants, and then smoothies and water were their liquids.
Now, do you have any family that's kind of hard to deal with during the holidays, or is everybody on board with you?
Everyone's got on board eventually. So in the beginning, we were the pains in the butt, but eventually everybody needed our help. So, my husband's parents, their blood sugar and blood pressure and all those issues, so they got on our plan with the smoothies and the vegetables and reversed their issues, got off their meds. My mom got rheumatoid arthritis, and so she reversed it, going on our plan. So eventually everybody's kind of come around to what we're doing. So yeah.
What about like school? Is that hard?
Not really, because my kids grew up this way, and so they're used to it. And they come home and tell me they're upset with how their friends eat, because they'll tell me that it's so sad. My older son, when he was in I think 2nd or 3rd grade, he said that he felt so sad that his friends' parents didn't love them enough to send them with vegetables because they were just eating pizza and chocolate milk and dessert. And he said, I just wish their parents loved them enough to give them the good food, So he wasn't upset that they make fun of his food. He's upset that they're eating junk, and he loves them and he wants them to be well. So, when you're raised where you truly, we talk about everything in my family. So my kids understand. They've both done book reports on my Goodbye Lupus book, not because I made them, they just did it. They just took my book and they know my story, and they know how they are miracles of themselves. They also know about the animal side of things and the environmental impact. So every time they write a report, it has something to do with veganism, and again, on their own. Oh, it's Earth Day? Great. Let's talk about Earth Day. Let's talk about how much factory farming affects the planet, and so they're always bringing that. And the teachers always give them 100 and go, wow, I learned so much. So it's a part of who they are, and you don't just throw that away. It's something that they love that, and they're proud of it. So it's not a hard thing for them.
It's so cool that you're so open with them. And how do you talk to them about the ethical side of that? Like the animals? I
think it just kind of happened naturally. So I talk to them about all things, and we've always had open dialogue throughout their lives. But definitely so when I was teaching them about food, it was easy, again, having raised them this way. So I would ask them, we'd play a game. Do we eat apples? Yes. Do we eat oranges? Yes. Do we eat pigs? No. And I didn't teach them the answers. To them, it was ridiculous. Do we eat dogs? Do we eat cats? Do we eat pigs? No, right? They just thought it was and they thought it was a silly game because they would never consider that an animal walking by was food, because they weren't ever given it in a form with ketchup on top and just, so it was very easy. And then the question started to come, well, why do other people eat them? And then I had to talk about, well, that's just how they grew up. They don't know better. I grew up eating that too. We just didn't know, and we thought that it was good, and we just do the best we can. So I've also taught them that it's a compassion, that people who eat meat aren't bad people. They just haven't learned what we know. And we only can help people through love. Like my 13-year-old Solomon, he started making YouTube videos at like 4. And he has one video about the way that you teach people to change is through love, that you have to love them and be kind to them. And that's what invites them to learn from you, right? And that's what I taught them, that I got lucky that I learned this. And you're lucky to grow up this way, but not everybody is. And it's through kindness and understanding that we can bring people closer and teach them. So I teach it to them, but not in a judgmental way. But they naturally have compassion for animals. You know, animals, they know animals feel pain and love and all of those things. So that's another reason why it means a lot to them to eat this way, and no one's gonna tell them otherwise, even if there wasn't the health aspect. I think that would be something that'd be ingrained in them because they've never eaten that. And so to them, it just doesn't even make sense why you would ever hurt anybody when you can love your food. They love their food, you know, so why would you hurt anybody to be able to eat? So it's just kind of natural. The conversations just occur naturally, and I'm always very honest, but tell them just enough. So when they're little, they don't need the gory parts. But they did know, like my son Alex said once when he was like 4, and we were walking through the supermarket and we saw the dairy aisle, and he goes, "I wish we could just take all the milk and give it back to the baby cows." And it was just, and I didn't say at that age that the baby cows were already dead, but you know, he still understood at that age that these don't belong to us. And so we just, you know, it just kind of naturally evolved over time. Children, whether it's about reproduction or about diet or about spirituality, they naturally ask the questions as they get older, and we can answer them with honesty and help them learn.
Now, which one wrote the book?
Solomon.
Okay. And how can people find that?
It's on Amazon. He's got 5-star reviews on Amazon. And so it's 50 different attacks on veganism. And he has one-liner comebacks. And then he also has a description of the science behind it. So if you do have a friend that actually wants to learn, you can explain them the details. But from B12 to protein, all the different attacks, he has his little comebacks and then the explanations for it. And people love it. Most of his reviews are people saying, "I'm an adult and I needed this. I take it with me, like it's coming with me to Thanksgiving." So that way, if someone says, "What about protein?" Hold on, let me get to that page. All right, you know, just having it as a resource. But it was his COVID project, and he wanted to do something to empower other kids because he said for him it was easy. He has these comebacks ready. He's grown up this way. But for other kids, maybe they need that help, and he wanted to provide that for people.
What's his YouTube channel?
Solomon Tadlock. Yeah, he's on Instagram too. He's made videos of the comebacks, and they're hysterical. They're hysterical. You know, I mean, they're about farts and all different kind of things, and he acts them out, and it's pretty awesome.
Do you have any quotes you want to share that just ring a bell or resonate with what we've been talking about?
Probably if I'm going to think about what I say the most to people when they're trying to change their diet, one of the things is you have to really focus on what you want most, more than what you want right now. And I think we've gotten into a society and a mindset where we're just thinking about right now. Right now I want a burger. Right now I want to not think or feel. But if what we want most is to be healthy and to be happy and to live good lives, then we have to think about what happens next, and we have to think about what we want most. And so that's more valuable. So it's never a choice between like a green smoothie and a donut, but a choice between your health and your life and a donut. That suddenly the choices we make become easier when we let ourselves truly think about what we want most and believe that we can have it.
Wow, that really puts things in perspective. Any last minute encouraging words you want to share before we close this?
Really just start where you can. You know, one of the things about nourishment and smoothies is even if you're eating a terrible diet, the standard American diet, adding what you're missing will already start to have a positive impact on your health, and it will naturally crowd out some of the bad things. So it doesn't have to be that you have to be fully committed all or nothing today in order to make this change. You can just start now with maybe adding what you're missing and giving yourself permission to get there as you can. And that way it doesn't have to be like, it's New Year's, and then you go, no, it's too much, I can't do it, I have to finish my fridge. Just do your best today and allow yourself to work towards that goal and give yourself permission to get there as you can.